confused, everyone.
Let's get dangerous.
This is so cool.
I know.
It feels so right.
Take silly.
I'm sorry, who is this?
Nice try, Moonman, pretending not to know Earth's greatest mastermind.
You just made the list.
I thought you said that was a myth.
Just because it's a myth doesn't mean it's not true.
If you all blindly follow my plan, we may have a chance.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
Game on, you ducks. This is going to be a fast one. Not much that you have to worry about in week 2, but unfortunately there's a big one. Brock Bowers, we might as well just get to him right off the hop here, and sounds like he's super questionable for this week. Not even practicing, had the sleeve on. Here's the worst part about it. As you may probably know, it is the second Monday night game. It is 10 p.m. on the East Coast. If you want a backup plan, Michael Mayer of this team, that's your backup plan if you want to wait for Brock Bowers as long as possible, which I recommend unless there's a Juwan Johnson out there. Maybe Harold Fannin didn't get picked up by some people. I can't imagine much else where it's not worth it just to wait Brock Bowers and then, of course, swap in Mayer if he can't go. Unfortunately, that's just what we have to deal with. And it doesn't help that Dallas Goedert, in case you missed that news, Dallas Goedert is out as well. That's an afternoon game. So at least that one we already know, but leaves even fewer options potentially for you to go grab. I want to move on to the 49ers before I have a lot of advice. Like I said, there's not a lot of situations we have to really watch for this week. But the 49ers, twofold. One, Juwan Jennings, questionable. I could see having plenty of other options than Juwan Jennings to roll him out there against the Saints where they probably don't even need to be super aggressive anyway. I'm going to consider him a wide receiver 4 if he plays. And that's with Mac Jones. Look, I'm not downgrading Ricky Pearsall that much. Just last year, we have Brian Thomas, who was not carried. He definitely wasn't carried by Mac Jones, but his production didn't wane much with Mac Jones over Trevor Lawrence. So Mac Jones can go out there and be fine. Mac Jones, if you're in a super flex, is a QB2 if you lost Brock Purdy, or maybe you don't want to roll out Bryce Young until we see some better games from him. He has somebody that had multiple top 20 performances. Again, it's multiple top 20. It's not a QB1. But he's not the worst. Like, he's definitely not a lot of upside with him, but, QB 24-ish range, sure, why not? So that's about it for the, hey, we have to watch for this in week 2. But a lot of questions about situations of managing your roster got in the comments of waivers and the ranks this week, and I think they're important to address, especially for week 2 for everybody out there. A lot of people asking if they should drop Braylon Allen, drop Ollie Gordon, other options like that. And here's the issue with that. The reason you drafted them was in case something happened to the lead. If the lead is healthy in week 1, you don't drop them. The whole point was once it happened, once the injury were to happen. Brian Robinson behind CMC, he's probably the riskiest of all. But at some point, we know what the value could be. Top 20, some of these guys, even RB1s like Brian Robinson with that potential. If something happens, I understand once you get to buys, if you have other injuries or situations and you have to, and they're the last person on your roster. But don't drop Braylon Allen. Don't drop Ollie Gordon until Jalen Wright comes back and maybe takes the job back as the number 2. It's only been one game. But you don't drop these guys, these clear high-end backups where they have the top 20 potential, just because the lead option stayed healthy. These are the quote-unquote potential league winners, and you need to hold on to them. Similarly to this, Tyler Algier is another one, and I've got a lot of questions about Tyler Algier versus Braylon Allen versus Trey Benson. Like, ooh, why would I drop Benson for Algier? Would I drop Algier for Braylon Allen? All three are in the same conversation. Here's what it is. I hate to say this, but there is no answer because, unfortunately, with those three, it's just a matter of who gets hurt first. If I tell you to drop Braylon Allen because I like Trey Benson better, if Breece Hall and James Conner both got hurt, but if James Conner stays healthy and Breece Hall is the one that gets hurt and Braylon Allen's the option there, like it's just telling you wrong to drop one. If you have one, I just hold on to whichever of the three. If you want to swap for one, I'm fine with that too. Because again, there's no way to predict this. James Conner obviously would be the riskiest and then followed by Breece Hall. Probably least risky is Bijan Robinson, but Bijan Robinson got hurt in week 2. It would be the wrong answer anyway. So all three are worth holding, but I wouldn't swap one just for another. They're all fine. Another situation is holding 2 tight ends or even 2 defenses this early in the season. I'm just not going to do it just because I'd rather stash those RBs. I'd rather stash high-end wide receivers. Now, of course, some leagues are deeper. You know, you might have 7 bench spots and then holding 2 tight ends is fine. But it's more about the tight ends in the same range, like holding Jake Ferguson and Fannin. I'm just, you guys know how I feel about Fannin. Like, I'm hesitant to buy in. I think he could be Isaiah Likely. But at the same time, I'll shoot for that ceiling and drop Ferguson. I'll move on from other flyers at tight end. Juwan Johnson, I'm not going to hold Juwan Johnson and Fannin or Colston Loveland and Juwan Johnson. Like, I'm just going to go with one. The other part of it, too, is with tight ends, outside of the elite options, a lot of it is you have to play them every single week to take the good with the bad because they're tight ends. They're not really matchup dependent. This isn't like a few years ago where start every single tight end you can think of against the Arizona Cardinals. We might find that out in a few weeks, but as of right now, I just wouldn't waste the spot on it. Again, talking mostly 10 and 12 team leagues. Same thing with defense. This is way too early to say there's one definitive or even two definitive. Hell, go back to one. One definitive, you have to hold this defense all year long and drop somebody else. Defenses change year to year. Defenses change within the season. Defenses change in weeks. It's just, I would ride one with a couple good matchups, and hopefully that can continue past that. But I'm never going to sit here and be like, oh, week 5, I might need this other defense while I'm riding the one for the first 4. No. Running backs, wide receivers, stash them on your bench, maybe a tight end. And then last one, quarterbacks, same thing. I kind of talked about this during the pre-draft process, or I should say the draft process, or whatever. I guess pre-draft is right, depending on when you drafted. But anyway, it was first or last. It was draft an elite quarterback or wait till the end and double dip. And I did say to double dip, but here's we're going to say the double dip part is a little bit different and some context depending, is I have no problem shooting for 2 upside options. So Justin Fields was in a lot of my leagues, and hopefully some of you guys have them. But the difference is where you're shooting for top 5, 7, 8 quarterbacks, it's more of when you have the known commodities around QB 14, like Justin Herbert and Jordan Love. I'm never going to hold both because they're similar. They have similar ceilings. Yes, one could hit and the other one couldn't. I get that. And again, it's all relative to how big your bench is. But generally, what I'm saying is, if both become QB 10-ish, 10, 12-ish range quarterbacks, and now you're sitting there every single week, adding another decision you could potentially get wrong. And that's the thing. We want to take decisions as much out of the equation as possible because it's just another chance to potentially get it wrong. So where you're like, oh, Justin Herbert's facing the Bengals this week, and Jordan Love's going against the Steelers. Well, that could still flip the other way. Like Jordan Love could still have a good game, and then Justin Herbert could go belly up against. Like Joe Burrow just went belly up last week, and I know it was the Browns, and Myles Garrett was in his face half the game. But you get my point: is that you're adding another decision that could potentially go wrong, and their QBs in the same range. This isn't Justin Herbert and Bryce Young. In that one, you're just starting Justin Herbert every single week, unless Bryce Young all of a sudden wakes up and starts running for a touchdown every single week, and then we address that problem at the time, and there's potentially a sell high. And I know, well, that's why I want 2 quarterbacks, sell high. You guys all know this. How often do people actually pay up for quarterbacks in single quarterback leagues? Superflex, completely different story. But you get my point. I know it's all relative to the league you're in. I just want to add some strategy to you guys of how do we get these league winners that are in the double-digit weeks late in the season and they're already on people's rosters because they're not stashing 2 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks, 2 defenses and doing these kind of things or dropping them too early. At Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, last year, both of those were dropped way too early in the season by a lot of teams and ended up being league winners. So hopefully that helps you in week 2 and beyond. We'll be back Monday for the recap of everything you need to know. Oh, yeah, you need to recap Thursday Night Football. Haha, tricked you guys. One more thing before we get out of here. That offense was miserable by Kingsbury. I don't know what he was calling most of the game. That being said, I am going to give a ton of credit to the Packers defense. That is a defense that you might want to hold on to, and that is a defense that we might be very concerned about going forward. In that game, Austin Eckler suffered the Achilles injury. That's super unfortunate. Such a good guy. I would feel bad for him. You would assume Krosky Merritt's going to see a tick up. I'm going to assume that. However, I do think this is a team that could continue to use Jeremy McNichols and then Chris Rodriguez being active. Maybe that tick up is only 20% and not the hope of being a locked-in RB2 we want. I hope it's there. I think the upside is there, but I wouldn't guarantee that just yet. And we, of course, have 10 days for them to figure that out. On the Packers side of things, Jaden Reed is out for quite a while. I get it. Golden didn't do anything in this game, but he could have. He legitimately had about 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns left on the field by an overthrow and an underthrow from Jordan Love. I'm not saying start Golden next week, but the injury does open some things up. He was on the field much more, rotating still, yes, with Dontavian Wicks, but I think the ceiling for him is higher. I think that he can still be a wide receiver 3, but the real appeal here is that, as I mentioned on the waiver show earlier this week and in the waivers and in the ranks and everything, is Romeo Doubs is the clear answer. He's the constant 1-2. So Doubs and Golden hopefully going forward, but we have to wait to see with Golden, see if they start to implement him more. Hey, he got some run out of the backfield, got 2 more touches out of the backfield than he did in the passing game. Actually, the same amount of targets as touches. But anyway, there you go. Now it's wrapped up. And now we'll be back on Monday. And hopefully you enjoyed it. And good luck. And get those W's. Eat those W's in week 2. Yeah.